Welcome everybody. PC, the topic of my presentation. I will talk about the Magnolia product strategy, and I will focus on Magnolia 5.4, not only on Magnolia 5.4 as one of the key steps to implement this strategy. That's me. I'm Philipp Bärfuss. I'm at Magnolia for 10 years now. So I started there when we were just the four of us. Why are you here today? And I think you're here today because you care about the product. To some way, you bet on us because you have chosen the product, you're a customer, you are training people, you're a partner, you want to do implementations, or you're a prospect and you're about to bet on us. And so you want to be sure that you are on the safe side. Actually, because I'm a European, I first thought it's why is this guy putting the Marlboro Man into my presentation? But it's a lucky cowboy, I was told. So, but how will we make sure that you feel safe and that you are safe? We do that by sharing our strategy, to tell you what we plan to do and how Magnolia 5.4 fits into this picture. We had several get-together to see actually what should be our product goal, and we had a lot of discussions. But at some point we realized what we actually want is more customers. And we want 10 times more customers in 5 years than we have today. So you could think, yeah, why? The point is, since I'm there for 10 years, actually we are doing this because we want a product which is relevant. Otherwise, we could just see what is needed for the bakeries and add a few things and say that's the CMS for bakeries or the CMS for whatever. But for us, it's important to be relevant, to do have an interesting product, interesting offer. People like us, so it's also about the personal satisfaction. Now, it's very easy to say that we want to have 10 times more customers. It's a bit less easy to say how you want to do that. The key here is that we want to make it easy to engage. And maybe already now you have some ideas. Yeah, that was hard, that was difficult, and so on. So we are focusing on these spots where we see, oh, it's not easy for people to understand Magnolia, to see why is this actually the right fit for you. And yeah. There are two steps we're just doing now. It has not so much to do with the feature set. One thing is on-demand offering. It will be beta before the conference in Europe. So that it's just easy to get your Magnolia instance running, to do your test projects. Maybe you have a campaign to do, and you know Magnolia, and you just want to have a quick setup. The other thing is we are rethinking our packages so that also for smaller projects you have a decent deal. It's not about competing against WordPress or so, but having something which is easy available with on-demand and has a meaningful price for you. It should then also be easier to scale up. So you start, let's say, with one public instance. Then you need to be sure that your site is always available. So you want to have 2 public instances, better caching. You want to have workflow at some point, so you roll it out to more than just one site and so on, so that you have always the right package ready. That's work in progress. And on demand, we'll have the beta for evaluations, so to test this. The aim is not to only do a platform as a service, so that it's just we give you a Magnolia virtual machine somewhere in the cloud. It should be, we are doing software as a service. That means there will be maybe a bit limited feature set to make it safer, easier. But on the other hand, we will also guarantee for you then the updates on these instances, for instance. So now you're saying, yeah, that's right. So you have it on demand, you do nice packages, but yeah, honestly, it's still too complicated. So the product is powerful, but powerful combines very often with complexity. And we realized that, and it was, well, as a CTO, a technical CTO, you do not get often the chance that you can take care about the developers using the product. We proposed something, and yeah, then the answer was, yeah, but I will not sell more licenses because you're doing this. But we realize that's not true. It's important that people succeed in the POCs and that they like to work with Magnolia, and it's also one of our key values that you should enjoy working with Magnolia. As I said, Magnolia is powerful, but it's not always easy. So we see that if people are good trained, good teams and so on, we have great success in projects. But yeah, that's also what can happen if you are too bold. So we knew, okay, we want to make it easier to engage. We want to have this developer focus. So we have to reduce complexity. Why? So we started, that was on version 5 of Magnolia. We started to have an SDK with Magnolia 4. It already added complexity. We added resources. We added this and that. And so at some point you realize there are so many things added that you could achieve the same thing with less. So we wanted to release obstacles. And so we were thinking about, like, for whom are we doing this? So for the front-end hipsters, for Jimmy Clueless.
Are you looking at me?
Yeah, well, I didn't find a picture. Now, what is important, Magnolia is really not just a product for gurus. And it should just, you should be able to do your job. If you are a Java programmer, you can do things, you should be able to succeed. And especially this, the front-end hipsters, front-end developers, it was always like Magnolia. If you say Magnolia, you think Java. And so in the other world, there are the front-end UI guys who are doing something, and maybe Jimmy Clueless tries to put that into some templates. We have also some Java nerds. They feel like kings, but they also have a problem. Their problem is actually they have to do work they would prefer if someone else can do it, and they could do some weird, cool integrations of e-commerce systems. So that's how it looks now, today. For most of the things, you read really skilled Java developers. And that's what we want to achieve with 5.4. Actually, he can really do the cool things. Average skilled Java developer can succeed, but also, and I think that's getting more and more important, especially in agile, rapid deployment of changes, that actually the front-end people can directly do their stuff. I think we will have a presentation showing this, actually already practice with 5.3. We just make it more natural with 5.4. So the big goal is learn that a developer can learn how to make a web project with Magnolia in 1 day. So you start, you go to your mini tutorial. In the evening, you more or less know how to do your web project. So we had these objectives. Important that the front-end people can work is that you can do your stuff without Java as well. And in a combination to also show how this works, to have a new modern demo. It's like this demo or the SDK, it's something like these things you do once and you plan to improve it always, and in 3 years you realize it's still what you shipped originally. And I think it's, I don't know if you can say this in English, but it sells Magnolia under the price. So yeah, okay, so you look puzzled, it's not proper English, but maybe you know what I want to say, I hope. So we did research in our community to see some of the proposals, what do you really think should be changed. It should be easy and safe to do the configuration. And it's not always like I'm now speaking here to the developers. If you work in the tree, if you forget to export that and with the bootstrap file, if you update your system, if you merge such changes in bootstrap files, or you probably, if people, sometimes developers like to work with Magnolia in general, but they always in the end say, yeah, but this is really a pain. So that's what we addressed. You can configure now on the file system or in modules that's equally on the file format, which is easy to handle and read. So you can make includes, you can copy paste, and you can use your normal tooling. And you also don't need to restart or whatever. These files are directly read from the file system. Another example here from a dialog configuration. There is more which can be done, but I think it's an important first step, because now on this, nice tooling can be built. The next step was actually the resource handling. We had one case where it really was thinking, is that true? We had a prospect making a POC. There was a front-end developer. I think there were 3 front-end developers, 1 Java guy. So you see how teams are distributed today. This front-end developer was, I think, for 4 days not able to put his CSS in place. And, well, that was really like, okay, that's a no-go. So we have invested a lot there. What we do now, we have very simplified resource loading cascade. Sorry, it will be less technical afterwards. So it loads from the workspace, from the JSR. You have your files in there. Maybe you can open the templates and configuration or things in there. You can also do hot fixes, publish these changes. It will fall back on the file system. So you can just have your files on the file system, or in the end in the class path. That means now, today, it doesn't matter whether you work with Maven and modules, whether you just have a Tomcat with a web app, with a folder, and you put your files there, or actually if you are working directly on the system or doing your hot fixes and loading this in this resources app. It's also, it works the very same way now for resources, for these configurations files you have seen, and for template scripts. So that makes it much easier to teach how Magnolia works, because it just works one way. Here, that's a glimpse at the resources app. So you can actually browse through this. You will see, let's say, a CSS file. You can see what is loaded from the file system, what is overridden in the workspace, what's in the class path. You can import this and then also directly work in here with code highlighting. So the biggest change, it's a conceptual change, is that you don't need Java to make your website modules. And that makes these hipsters happy. So that's from the file system. That's how a mini project looks like. That's the mini project where people learn to work with. So you see, you have your page template, the configuration of the template, your script, everything is just there. You open the files. It doesn't matter whether it's Eclipse or something simpler. You have your resources here. And here, in this example, it's using a component, one component, a quote component. The clue is what we moved away from this Java model and moved to the templating, to the functions. So instead of have 10 different kind of teaser components you can extend or not extend, you have now functions which allow you to do this logic just in the templates. For imaging or accessing assets, you have the DAM functions, so you can get a certain rendition. You don't need to know how it works. You don't need to know Java. It's just what you use in your templates. There is also a lot of work if you want to make it easy to engage. Also, it has, let's say, 50% to do with the product, and the rest is also documentation, on demand, and so on. Here, that's a new Hello Magnolia tutorial. You should be able to work that through in an hour. You can just download the zip file, put it in the web app folder, because everything can be on the file system. And you can already change things or look how it works. So no Maven, no Eclipse Voodoo. Yeah. So, but now that's all right. That's nice. That's a bit like assembler. But you don't want to start from scratch. So SDK had value. It had a lot of components. Just to say, like a video component or other things you just don't want to redo, or many don't want to redo. Some want to redo everything. So on top of that, we were saying, oh, let's do something new, the Magnolia templating essentials. Once we said that, yeah, but what are then the Magnolia templating essentials? So the team did say, okay, let's just use nothing in SDK and go and do a mini project. One guy was using Angular, one Twitter Bootstrap, and someone testing just if he doesn't use Java at all. And the conclusion then was, well, it works. We don't need so much more. We don't need a rich set of components or to make it work. We also realized if we build now something new like this MTE, we were not yet knowing what it is, but something which was also clear is front-end technologies are constantly changing. New best practices arrive every year, and MT is something which should be more stable so that you can rely on it, and also we can rely on it. So that's maybe you have already seen this diagram. The clue is that if you ship your content from Magnolia, you can use any kind of front-end technology. we just try to not to be in your way if you do your templates. I think that's the whole clue about MT. We just don't try to be in your way. We just make it easy. So if you need an image, if you need a rendition, if you need search, if you need to do a navigation based on categorization and so on, things are there. But otherwise, we just say, it's your job. That's a bit more. You see, we have moved, we have saved a lot of things from the SDK, so the sites, a very powerful feature, is now part of the main. So not something extra. We worked a lot on the resources. And we are making a demo using Twitter Bootstrap as an example. You can base on this Twitter Bootstrap fundament, but it's really not a requirement if you want to use MT. So to show this, one of the goals was to have a new modern demo. That's not yet finished, but still I can show here how we think people work with this MT. So for instance, you will work more with content apps. You have your page structure, but then you have tours, you have events, you have news, you have articles. Here we have because we are currently quite successful in the tourist industry, that's why we said, okay, let's take one of these use cases with and what you see here, for instance, this is content coming from a content app, and some of the tours are featured. So you manage your tours in your tours app in a structured way. You can also then, it's just an example, say have your tour categories. You say that adventure, just beaches or whatever. And you can define these categories and then put the tours, connect them. Here is, for instance, now such an example which shows how we help you with the MTE. So this navigation here is not based on a tree of pages. It's also based on, let's say, an about page or contact page. But the tour types here, active, beach, cultural, are actually based on these categories in your content app. And what we give you are then these templating functions to build this in an easier way. So here you see the page tree. You see there is one page for the tours, which is responsible to render these tours if you find them, link to them. But you have, for instance, also the about pages, which are standard normal pages. Yeah. Another example here is the search. Well, what we do is we have here a function for the searching. You can say search in tours. You say in which structure you're searching, and then you can iterate on the results. And for instance, just always link to an item, and the system will know how to create a link to a tour, how to make a link to a product. Maybe the link to the product needs to point to another system because it's smarter commerce integration, and you just don't need to care. So we hope it's not as sophisticated as ski jumping. It's just a sledge ride and a lot more fun. Okay, you don't want to migrate. MT is a separate and new modern approach. We have not changed the templating. It's the same templating function, same rendering, free marker language, and so on. That means SDK can be installed. So we regularly install now SDK on our 5.4 to test if everything is still working. Actually, all our integration tests still run with SDK. That's why. And MT is what we ship with 5.4 as a default demo, default bundle. And SDK in a way, we will not invest more into SDK. But if you have your SDK projects, or even if you have a lot of knowledge in SDK and you think you are more efficient with SDK, you can use it, all the things which are now in 5.4, like resource handling, configuration, it will help you anyway. But for new customers or or also partners, I would recommend at least have a look at the MT. So what's the next step? We focus on our strengths to make what we have, to tighten it. That's the product principle we have for a long, long time, and that's also what we follow, and that's now, luckily, the developers were once benefiting from this. So these are the 6 strengths: high performance, front-end publishing, ease of development, usability, and connectivity. I think one of the strengths is really this connectivity, the flexibility of the system, which brings the risk of complexity, but that's where we now, with ease of development, are pushing against it to make it smarter. If you go for new features, well, it has to follow our feature compass. So simplicity, joy, well, it also needs to be solved somehow. And I think these 2 things together are actually the tools we use to define our roadmap. It can be interesting to understand this, to see how we move forward. And also we do now invest more in these improvements. So if we have a team of 5 people focusing on the CMS, at least 1.5 person are working on steady improvements of the product and not only new features. So if you ask me what's coming next, these are the objectives set for the product. We support on demand. Now, after the developers, we will focus on the authors. That is just nicer to work with things with images, selecting images, thumbnails, view, browsing this, searching over the complete system, and actually get ready for setups where you just have more content than today. Or one topic which most likely goes in there is author clustering. That's also one of the topics. What will we ship with 5.4? So you see again these colors, the strengths. So templating essentials, configuration, which builds together, brings this business value of that you're fast, you deploy fast, you're agile. But that's not the only thing. So we have invested on caching, dynamic caching, that makes it now possible to improve on like component personalization and other things. I will come to that later. We have, for instance, shipped the campaign publisher. That's where you can, I show that. And yeah. Accessibility. So we were, for version, we try to pick in all these areas something we do to improve the system, to have better performance, better usability. So it's not that we just focus only on one thing. Even if now I'm talking about the developers, you see it's also about performance. Okay, dynamic page caching. What you can do is something like now Edge server-side includes with Magnolia. So there is a site mesh filter where you can post-process what you have cached. Sounds very technically, But for instance, you can cache everything on a page except the username, and that needs to be dynamic. As an example, it's a very powerful tool. You can add your own stuff there. I think what's very important here is that for all components or areas, you can say whether this is cacheable or not. During the rendering, it will see that. And just cache the parts it can parse and then inject what is not cacheable. That makes the path free for a lot of powerful personalization. The campaign publisher is another thing. That's more here now also an example why is Magnolia. I have to hurry up a bit. Cool, so you can put pages together, images together in a bucket, and then you can review this. Ooh, you can make it black. You can have review status. Someone is going through these elements in this campaign. Once it's ready, you can bulk publish. It's just one example how you can now use these apps, content apps, to make useful use cases. And we start to ship more of this. Also, another feature is, well, that existed before. Now it uses the nice visualization of Magnolia 5, concurrent editing. So you see, okay, there's someone else editing. You see that it is Peter, so you can call Peter and say he should move away. Okay, part of this strategy is to make it easy to engage. That's how we try to get 10 times more customers. But, just make it easier to engage. That will probably not work to get so many more customers. What's the positioning? We see Magnolia more and more as a digital business platform. A digital business platform, but we are a CMS, so it's just about changing the perspective. There is a platform which has a CMS at its core. That's also after we have built Magnolia 5, at some point we realized it's something much more powerful. We have apps, so we have UI-focused, you can task-focused UI. We have, you don't need JCR, you can integrate other systems and just show it in these apps, like products from Smarter Commerce. Consistent user interaction, which is also part of such a platform, collaboration tools. And personalization is one of the first use cases which we're showing that it works. So we actually make it digital business platform with a CMS at its core. So that's how we see us today after some reflecting, and it's also how we are positioning us. Yeah, so now you say, yeah, okay, it's nice to have a CRM at the core, but yeah, now you miss so many things like customer relation management, commerce system, analytics. So what we are doing is the so-called open suite approach. So that's what Foster says, what you need to do a customer experience management search. That's now covered with Solar. We have, for instance, several connectors to commerce systems and personalization. We will show that later. So what we think, actually, you are there, you are at the limit, you need to do all the things people from marketing, or maybe you are from marketing, but you expect that you can all do this personalization, and because someone did something on Facebook and it should all work, but actually it's a bit of magic. So it's very easy to panic. So what we say is this open suite approach to take best of breed is how you can turn panic into opportunity. And yeah, so you see, the things are changing so rapidly that, well, you can take the best out-of-the-box solution today, but in half a year, this, well, it will just not guarantee that you can still do the things you need to do then. So what we try to do is we are promoting this, the open suite approach, so that we put together, we give you a lot of options with the connectors, and all this together makes actually a suite, but you can easily change some of these blocks. It's also, we see at the clients, it's getting more and more important that these things can be changed. So more and more people don't believe that there is a system which will just solve everything also next year. So, but then you need more connectors. If we say we are a digital business platform with a CMS at its core, then you need connectors so that you can bring these other toolings in there. What we did a year ago, I think it's a year ago, we created a new department, which is led by one of the smartest guy in the company, definitely, but probably also on the planet. And he was putting all his effort in making these connectors work, to use this platform. So we were showing some of these solutions to like IBM and other partners, and they were quite surprised how nicely this is integrating also with the user interaction. So it still looks like Magnolia or the same user experience. Here are just a few examples. What is now important with the personalization, and if you have smarter commerce, so for instance here we can use the same segments you define in your smarter commerce system. I don't want to spoil the presentation of Jan, but yeah, here you can also use the data, for instance, from Sugar CRM to drive your personalization based on this. You can use the same segments as in a smarter commerce, so you can do powerful new things. So you are on top of this rocket and you can relax. Oh. What's in the pipeline here? I think it's already done actually now, is that you can have assets in S3, for example, and we are working on a Salesforce integration. We're a starter partner there. You could say there are too many things you're doing now, so again, you make it complex. So we do this 3-ring model. Just a few words. We protect the platform. So we have also changed the structure of the development. So there is a team focusing on the platform, on the user interaction. Around this, we have the product, the standard product, and that's now important. The standard product is what should work for 80% of our customers just right. It's not these other 20, like all these other use cases, and we put it also into it, and then if you open your app screen, you have like 50 apps just because there are these complicated use cases. We address this by having another ring, the solutions. We say this is service supported, not product supported, but we will list them. So we'll see that this solution is used by 1 customer, 3 customer, 4 customer. And at some point, these things will end in the product. What is very important for me is you are also part of this. You can request such solutions. So we are able to build features in this solution ring, and we don't need to risk already the product and say, so we get such requests. We have this conference and so on where we can build ideas. So it's a lot customer driven, but what is important, the standard product is protected. It gives you a lot of opportunities. So one example here is, for instance, solar. It was built for one customer. At some point, 4 were using it. It was still an independent solution. And then we decided, okay, that's now so fundamental. That's definitely for more than just 20% of our customers. So it moved into the inner ring, and it's now part of the enterprise edition to have solar search. But still, you can already benefit if it is in the solution ring. So that's how we organize this complexity-rich feature set, a lot of connectors, but keeping the inner circle clean, so that also Johnny Clueless can come, install it, do a website project, and then comes the Java guru and adds some connectors. And yeah. So important, the OpenSuite approach. So we are not building all now because we are a platform. We are not building a CRM, a commerce system into Magnolia. We make connectors, we improve the connectivity, and we have this three-ring model to make it work in a way that it works for us and also for our customers. So not every release brings also 5 other connectors which you will never use. Okay, finally, we want to have 10 times more customers. I think you got that. How? Actually, by making it easy to engage and position us as a digital business platform. Magnolia 5.4 is, we get an Alpha 2 during this week. And it will be final before the conference in Europe. That's beginning of June. Thank you.